So today we'll be talking about dating relationships as a brown woman, as a brown immigrant woman in the US. So I don't think I've ever shared about, relationships and how confusing and difficult it can be to navigate life, especially as a woman of color in a foreign country. So, hi, if you're new here, my name is Rojina and I've been living in the US for almost 8 years now. And I moved here after high school and I'm a content creator, I work in marketing, and also I am a life coach where I help immigrants find their passion to help them live a thriving life abroad. So relationships is something that I've never really talked about and opened up about really, because when I was in high school, when I was in Nepal, I never dated. I had guy friends, but I didn't pursue them, or I was pursued because I was very competitive in my studies. I used to be involved in extracurriculars, but not like sports and stuff, but like debates, speech, quiz competitions and stuff like that. So it never really crossed my mind to date a man. And this is also something that I've come to a realization that had I dated men in Nepal, I don't know. But all this to say that when I first moved here, I was trying to navigate my studies, like career, life as an immigrant, right? Because my parents sent me off for studies, and because of my goals, because of my commitment, I was able to convince them to be able to study here as an undergrad. First year, I think I was really complacent. I was really focused on studies, and because coming here, to be honest, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a set plan or goal and how I could pay the tuition fees and all that nuances that entails when you come to the country as an international student. And I think during the second or third year after I moved to Texas, I started exploring relationships. I had friends who were dating, just this whole ball game of dating in general, right? Like where you get introduced from a mutual friend, where you go to a place, you go to a restaurant and a guy asks for a number, but it's creepy because all this conditioning of like, oh, you should never talk to a stranger, you should never like give your number to a stranger. And I think there's like two sides of it, right? Like, yes, strangers can be dangerous, especially as a woman. And you never know the backstory of a guy who is randomly, placed in a bar where you're at, and he finds you attractive, he wants to treat you, but you don't know him. So it's kind of like that kind of fear. And then the second is like, just being open to, like going with the flow and being really open to meeting new people, dating new people, learning from them. So I think there's two parts of it. So I really had to tread waters lightly. And I don't know, like and I think as women, we're like really intuitive, right? We're really intuitive and we know when something is off. So when a guy comes to a bar or like when a guy comes to a table in a bar and asks for a number, and if his body language, his manner of speaking, like how respectful he is, how confident he is, in like pursuing you, can determine whether you want to give him your number or not. I'm kind of like going off the topic, like I digress. But I think that was a main lesson in dating, especially like men outside of my culture, right? Like outside of my race, religion, culture, like everything that entails. I mean, I dated Nepali men before. I think perks of being in a new country is like you get to explore, you get to be, like adventurous, you get to pick your own poison, in a good way. So I think especially, and as I've been, like navigating relationships, life, career, and just growing in who I am, a lot of realizations I've come through, especially as a brown immigrant woman in United States of America, right? And right now it's that I don't know how my girlfriends and other women out there are doing it, but props to you guys, because I think one of the hard lessons I had to learn is that to stay true to your roots, stay true to who you are at your core. And sometimes I feel like I have rushed being in relationships or looking in the past. Like I've learned a lot from people who have been in my life and taught me, like important life lessons. I'm really grateful for them, because sometimes when looking back, I used to like be more in a victim mindset, like, oh, why did this happen to me? Why did that guy break up? Like, why is this relationship not working out? And I think I was trying to force something very hard that was not meant for me. Right people, wrong timing is seriously a thing, I believe. So if you're someone who's like navigating relationships, dating scene, I know it's hard and sometimes it can be confusing, especially when the other person does not speak your same language or like think in the same level as you, your values, your culture, your religion. I'm really grateful that I tried. I became open to meeting new people, even though there were times where it was creepy and, like, I think we as women have to be super alert and, trust your intuition, trust your gut, because that's where it's at. And also like reading a lot of books, tuning into advice to your friends, like just leaning with your girlfriends, asking people, like asking your friends for support. If something does not feel right and feels off, then asking your girlfriends for advice. If you're dating someone new, and it does not like sit well with you, if your values don't align and if things don't go right, just don't be hard on yourself, because a lot of times I think we are so hard on ourselves as women, right? We're like, we want to be liked, we want to be respected, we want to feel like confident and validated, right? And sometimes men don't know how to do that. And I've learned to just like be communicative, like work on my communication a lot, because English is my second language, and I think in Nepali, but also sometimes when I'm arguing, let's say, in arguing with my partner, like I don't know how to put things across or like put points across, because I'm thinking in one language and like I have to, translate it in my mind and say it out loud verbally. So I think just me making videos like this, right? Like practicing public speaking, practicing speaking in the mirror, writing down on a piece of paper like what you want to say, and then verbalizing it out loud in front of a mirror before saying it to you, your friend or like your partner. I think that's one of the key lessons that I've learned in terms of communication. And then the other key lesson also is being open. But being open in a sense where you know your boundaries and you know not to push your boundaries. Another lesson is not to project, your insecurities, because let me backtrack, because a lot of us have emotional baggage from when we were little. And I think especially as someone who never had relationships, and I started dating when I was in my early 20s, and then I didn't know what entailed. Like when you first start dating someone and you're like getting to know them in the first stage, and like, first of all, if you're dating someone who's like completely different culture, was raised in a different culture, who has different values and beliefs than you do, whose upbringing was so like out of worldly different, you start dating them, then I think it trickles into the way that you guys interact, right? And I had to, I think, learn the lesson the hard way, because we as first generation immigrants or first generation folks, even here, were the first ones to figure things out. We don't get a guidebook. There's no step-by-step guide to learning about these things and situations and navigating the intricacies of dating. I think no one teaches us that. So me, putting myself in the open field out there, I think taught me about learning how to communicate my needs, learning how to value me first. I think that's the fourth thing. Valuing is that even a word? I think learning the importance of self-love, self-care. And I know it's like a niche word, or like it's like a buzzword, self-love, self-care. But no, seriously, like learning how to set boundaries with yourself, self-care, loving yourself, nurturing your own temple first within, and being grounded in who you are. I think that's what is important, because as someone from South Asian Nepali collectivist culture, we are taught to respect one another, right? And elders, your husband, your partner. And I think it's like a cultural expectation that's put on women to respect, men, respect elders, respect your boyfriend, husband, partner, whoever it is, right? And I think I had to unlearn that, because coming into the US, right? Like, and I know there has to be some level of mutual respect for both, like the woman and the man. I'm speaking in terms of my experience, so if this does not resonate with you, like take it with a grain of salt. But and then just like respect for each other, but the kind of respect that people expect in our society in Nepal is different. And I saw that when I went back to my sister's for my sister's wedding. And I think it's the thing of like passing culture from one to another. My partner also saw firsthand, like real life, how they're treated, how men are treated, or like husbands are treated. So he kind of had that expectation of me when we returned back to the US. But things are different here, right? People operate on a different mindset. People operate on different value systems. People operate on different like cultures in the US. So I think just this idea of idolizing or worshiping husbands as in the Nepali society is very true and very culturally relevant, right? Even to now. And I think things have changed. Things are changing. Like no one can abide by those rules, especially in this 21st century, where like there's technology, there's a lot of dynamic changes and shifts happening all over the country, all over the world. So I think we have to move, or like we have to abide by the changing times. I don't know the term, but yeah, I think, and that's also the other thing. Like I used to think or like put the partners I've dated in a higher pedestal, or I thought of them as superior to me. And not in a sense of like being, like very submissive to them, or believing or like listening to them, and not not listening to myself. There were times where I did that, but now I am mending that relationship or healing that relationship with me, with my core, and just worshiping me, myself first, temple. Not to say this in a narcissistic way, but healing relationship with yourself can really go a long way before you go into a relationship with a significant other, whether it be a man or woman, Yeah, I think that can play a huge role and part in that. So yeah, I think the last thing that I'm gonna say or preface this is to anyone who's looking to be open to dating, if you're in a new country, new place, and are willing to explore like outside of your culture, religion, values. And I know some of my friends who are really not against it, but like they're kind of scared to go on a date with strangers, to people who they have been introduced through mutual friends. It can be scary. No, I totally get it. Like I did that too. But I think one of the key points or like plus points is that if you do get a hunch that it's not safe, then I think I want you to ask like if it's coming from a place of fear, or if it's really coming from a place of like your yourself stopping you from exploring new things, right? Because you never know what's on the other side. And I would have never thought that I would be in an interracial relationship, because I never imagined myself like being settled or being with a man who was not Nepali. And yeah, so you never know, like there's so much out there in the world, right, in this collective. Even though we don't speak the same language, even though we don't value the same things, we were raised in different culture, there are people who have different mindsets, who went through like a total complete culture shift, right, and whose upbringings were different. I think I've seen expanders within my life or like around me, the real world life where it's really possible, right, no matter the culture, no matter the religion, no matter the race. I think if you truly love the other person, and love is the common denominator, like that's holding you both, then no amount of hate, family, system, culture can come in between. I think that's the most beautiful thing. As long as you guys have mutual respect, as long as you guys can communicate well, as long as you guys have compromise in certain areas of your lives, then you can truly see the length of that transcends race, culture, religion, and love can really do that. So I really encourage my women or even men out there who want to be in a relationship, who are looking to explore and navigate this world of dating, especially now with the chaos that's in the world, right, with capitalism, like racism, colorism, and all the intricacies that bind like your values, your beliefs, political parties. I think that's a whole another ball game. But I think as long as you guys can communicate your boundaries or values, no matter like if you come from no matter the upbringing you had, right, if you have done a significant level of personal work, self-love, and know truly deep in your core who you are, I don't think you will let the external environment, world, people affect that. And my hope for you, for all of you, is you find, a person who truly loves you, respects you, because you all deserve that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this really helps. If this resonated with you, please comment like what resonated with you, and if it did not, like take with a grain of salt. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on dating, relationships, as a person of color, and what has your experience been like dating in a new country, dating in a new environment. So yeah, sending love to y'all. Bye.